Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast. We're talking baseball here on the MLB version of our Coast to Coast podcast. I'm Josh Lander, your host, as always, joined by my guys here, Nate Weitzer and Mo Nuwara, as we are looking forward to Monday's slate here in the MLB. But about 3 or 4 games under everybody's belt at this point. So we're looking at some less than stellar pitching in a lot of areas, some stuff we like tonight that we can take advantage of. Just a reminder, we are trying to hit all of the evening games so we can make sure we get these videos out to you in time with those odds that we have for you at that point. So we will look to get into about 3 or 4 games that we're really into tonight. But Nate, let's just jump into the lines and get into it.
Yeah, so looking at all the games here, we got a full slate still early in the season with some afternoon action. We got Guardians at Royals. That's a toss-up. Pirates are plus 170 at the Cardinals. Brewers minus 145 at Orioles. Rockies plus 115 at Rangers. Then the Red Sox, after wrapping up against the Yankees on Sunday night, are minus 120 at the Tigers. They'll send Michael Wacha against Matt Manning. Then we got A's sending Paul Blackburn to the mound. They're plus 180 at Tampa, who will use Luis Patino. The Mets with Taijuan Walker are plus 130 at the Phillies, surprisingly. Blue Jays in a toss-up with the Yankees there. And the Nationals minus basically a toss-up at the Braves. Mariners, slight underdogs at the Twins. And Marlins are plus 125 at the Angels. We're starting Michael Lorenzen. And then the Padres finally plus 120 at the Giants, who have that lefty staple there out west now, Alex Wood. So looking through all that action, Mo, what catches your eye?
So definitely the one that stuck out to me the most is going to be the Marlins. Plus 125 at DraftKings, I believe, is the best line as of tonight. They're throwing, what'd you guys say? Eliezer?
Correct.
Eliezer Hernandez.
Nailed it.
I just Hernandez for me. Hernandez. So I just wonder, are we sure this guy isn't a pretty good pitcher? The computers hate him. He's basically thrown 1 full season worth of innings. They haven't been particularly good innings, but this season and last season in kind of a half season-ish sample, he's been pretty good. All of his estimators are around league average for the most part, and he misses his fair share of bats. So I don't think there's any real warning signs that something's going to collapse. He has enough control to consistently pound the zone. I think he probably hits the zone too much. 58.6% last year. That's a little higher than I think you probably want to see. I think that's probably his issue. He's just throwing too many hittable pitches in the zone. But overall, I think he's fine. And fine is quite a bit better than the opposing pitcher here. Michael Lorenzen, longtime reliever, sometime moonlighter as a pinch hitting outfielder who hits dongs. But I guess they're trying to go away from that and just have him pitch this year. I'm frankly a little bit shocked that anybody's trying to turn him into a full-time starter. He has not started any number of games that we can really care about since 2015. He had 21 starts then, and he's basically been a full-time reliever since then. His results stunk that year, and they've mostly not been that great in relief either. And I mean, his projections are well below league average. And that's including them thinking he's going to throw a lot out of the pen, which boosts your effectiveness, right? So he's going to be worse than that as a starter. And on top of that, just not being able to throw what I would assume is that many innings. So I'm just wondering if we're going to get a long stint from a pretty bad bullpen. I think it's very thin for sure. I mean, Iglesias is good, but other than that, I don't think they have many good relievers. As we've been seeing, the Astros have been pounding them all weekend. So I think it's a pretty good spot for Miami. I'm pretty surprised they're this big of underdogs. I had the Angels barely favored here, so good value on plus 125, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Angels' plan seems to be to outslug teams with that horrible rotation behind Ohtani, but it hasn't been clicking so far here as we kind of ease into the season. So, yeah, if they're not going to get that kind of run support, if E. Hernandez is as good as your model projects, then, yeah, it's certainly not looking good when Lorenzen's in that bullpen. You're probably good for 5+ runs given up. And I see another bad pitcher here for Oakland in Tampa. Paul Blackburn barely hanging on in terms of being an MLB pitcher. The last few seasons, just giving up some really rough numbers. I mean, his fastball averaging under 91. It weights 9 runs below average according to Fangraphs. His Z contact rate in a very small sample size last year, 94%, giving up nearly a 30% line drive rate to lefties. And the Rays can just stack lefties and switch hitters at you like they did in game 2 against Jordan Lyles, tagged him for 5 runs in 5 innings. Between B-Lo, J-Lo, any pop star you want to throw out there, Josh, Wander Franco, they've got bats. Since August last season, averaging 5.4 runs at home. They're 25-9 in that's at home with a much, much better team ERA of 2.78. Just incredible. I mean, the starter they're throwing out there, Luis Patino, he's mostly an opener. They let him stretch it out a little bit, right, if he's got it going, but they won't hesitate to yank him if he's having trouble, and the A's just don't have nearly that flexibility in terms of Blackburn. They pretty much dumped their big names in the offseason. They're angling towards that new arena or new stadium and new look there. I mean, their bullpen had the 6th highest ERA in the AL last year. So if this does turn into a game where you're trying to match arms in the middle innings, got to favor Tampa even more there. I like the run line rather than trying to get them at -190 here on this money line. Run line and get about +110 for Tampa to win by 2 or more runs. I think they'll have no problem calming down this A's lineup that has a 202, 248, 333 slash line through 3 games this season, and probably isn't going to be very good at all this year.
No, yeah, this is going to be a season where you're going to have trouble naming more than a handful of A starters throughout the year. You're going to see a ton of guys cycle in and out. They're probably not done dumping salary still at this point, to be honest with you, having to start Blackburn already in the season when I doubt that they really wanted to have to pencil him as a starter at all, to be honest, as much as they might have just wanted him in that long relief role. As I mentioned, their lineup is going to struggle to produce runs. I think you're way right with the run line there, Nate. Not worth it at the -190, but I don't know, Mo, is there anything you see in this game specifically?
Well, I don't usually like to play a lot of run lines for home teams just because you don't get that last half inning just in case. But I would say if I did, this probably is a good spot because I would want to do it in games where I do expect quite a few runs to be scored. And I think that's fair here. It's like you said, I mean, you said it yourself when you said small sample. I mean, why is it a small sample? Because Paul Blackburn's not a major league pitcher. I mean, maybe as a long man, but yeah, just, he has not thrown more than 58 innings in a season, and that's for good reason. He's entering his age 28 season. Like, this guy is quad A as it gets.
Yeah, and speaking of pitchers that you might actually be looking to fade tonight, I believe you're talking to Giants as well over the pods, as more so because of how much you dislike Nick Martinez, maybe more than anything.
I mean, well, we should say I actually love Nick Martinez. He was one of my favorite fades about 4 or 5 years ago. I guess it had to be at least 5 years ago because I'm looking. He hasn't pitched in the majors in 5 years. Yeah. I'm actually not sure where he went in Asia. I'm not sure if it was Korea or Japan. I think it must be Japan because I think they usually import the Korean statistics. But yeah, I don't know what kind of, I'll be upfront. I don't know what kind of improvements he made. Some of these guys come back and pitch quite a bit better, but then, I mean, it's not always that much different. I mean, like, I think Chris Flexen went over there. Like, he came back. He's still not missing any bats. He's basically the same pitcher he was before. If that happens here, this line is insane. I mean, the only thing that can have this line anywhere reasonable is if Martinez made some serious improvements. And I haven't really read that much about it. So I would say don't go too crazy here because we don't know anything about Martinez. The computers seem to think he's like good now, or at least okay, which probably means he was pitching well over there. But yeah, I got to see it to believe it. I mean, he was really, really bad when he was here before. And also, I do like that the Padres have been going heavy bullpen here. They bullpen tonight. I guess something happened late. They pulled Blake Snell from his start. So burned some relief innings on Sunday, and they've just been burning a lot of relief innings, honestly, the last few days. So I think that could help here as well. Unfortunately, by the time you see this, maybe the line's not good enough to bet, but right now it's like around minus 140, which I think is still good. It was minus 135 when I first looked. So I guess we'll see what happens in the morning.
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in Alex Wood, and I think it's kind of fortunate for the Giants that he somehow didn't see the Padres at all last year, despite them handling. I mean, he hasn't faced them since 2018 when he was with the Dodgers. Padres did not put up good numbers against lefties for the most part. The negative 11.5 weighted runs against, sixth worst batting average, sixth worst weighted on base average in the majors against lefties last year. And Woods is one of those staples that you see from the Giants where they just get these pitchers. It's kind of like the St. Louis Cardinals have been for years. Get the most out of them, keep them churning out quality starts and turning it over to their bullpen. And that's how they went 46-18 last year as home favorites. I think you want to ride them here early as they open these first two series at home. In the last game I'm looking at, Blue Jays and Yankees. I'm willing to keep riding the Blue Jays for now. Jameson Taillon he seems like the kind of pitcher who's boom bust, who's going to give up a lot of fly balls. I mean, he had nearly a 50% fly ball rate last year. And if you're playing that game with the Blue Jays, you're probably going to get into trouble. So far, 20 runs, 7 home runs in 3 games against the Rangers. Their pitching has been poor, but now they get the promising second-year starter, Alek Manoah, who did have 2 pretty good starts against the Yankees last year. Worth noting, he had bad road numbers comparatively to home. I mean, he was incredible at home. But I think you can expect some runs here, and I think that plays into the Blue Jays' hands a little bit more in terms of if you're going to get into a slugfest with this team. Typically, it's not going to go well. I know the Rangers did beat them in that slugfest here on Sunday, but I think that's the Blue Jays game, and I think maybe you want to think about over 9 runs in this spot in the small stadium that is Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, that's probably where I would lean, to be honest, in this one. Looking at the ability for the Blue Jays to hit fly balls at an incredible rate, and a lot of them leave the park, as we all know, best offense in baseball. So, pretty good slate. I mean, we still, as you mentioned at the top, Nate, still got plenty of games to look forward to early in the season. Plenty of day games, but we do like a lot of these night games as well on this one. So, pretty good slate to choose from. We'll continue to be back with you guys every weekday of the rest of this week. So, until we see you next, happy betting.